Hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Peter Diagnos, and I'm going to be speaking about my spiritual awakening experience. And I'm going to try to divide it up into two parts. The first part being about mid-2017 and all of 2018. And then the second part will be 2019. So the last 8 months, it's now August 2019. So I would say the most intense 2 years have just happened, and I've just come through them. But first I'll start with some background about my childhood, my adolescence, and just basically a little bit about who I am to give you context before I get to the actual, spiritual awakening experience where these things started happening and I started coming home to my true self and I started knowing, why I'm here, what this is, what I am, and a lot of puzzle pieces started coming into place. So first I'll just define what do I define as spiritual awakening? And I define spiritual awakening as awakening to the part of you that knows you're eternal, that knows that death isn't real in the way we think it's real, that time and space isn't real in the way that we think it's real. And this is a collective creation, a collective construct that we have agreed upon in order to have a play field to advance ourselves and to basically add new dimensions to our experience as a soul. And we're all playing roles for each other, and all is for love, and there's nothing that is not love. Also, spiritual awakening I would define as finding that you exist, you have a balance of masculine and feminine energies. And a lot of times being in a human body and being alive, our task is to balance those energies, the masculine and the feminine. So knowing that you're eternal, knowing that you're God, knowing that you're everything, and everything is contained within you, and there are no bounds, and you are limitless, and there is this force that you can call on within you and you are part of everything, and you're just an aspect of God. And it's an immensely painful and at the same time profoundly liberating experience. So I'll get into it now. So when I was a kid, I was always very shy, extremely sensitive, extremely weird. And I just was really, really quirky kid. I had my own language. I would make weird noises. I was always just in my head, off in other universes, in my imagination. And I was so hypersensitive. And I actually remember there being a couple years there when I was a kid of genuine joy and happiness. Maybe from the ages of 5 to 10, around there. But I think I was just always and then into my more formative years, the awkward years, or age 12, 13 on. I always felt like this anyway, but as an awkward alien. And I say that now with I say that now with an appreciation for who I am, but just this sense of foreignness everywhere. In my body, in my perception, in the way I exchange energy, with the way I interpret information, the way my nervous system, the way my body works, just my orientation towards the world. And I always had very, very intense emotions, intensely sad and intensely happy. Everything was always needed to just dive deep, super deep. I always wanted to have heart-to-hearts with people. I always preferred talking one-on-one with people. And I think I started to feel alienated because I just felt that, this world doesn't have a context for me. And I never felt like I fit anywhere, and I always felt like I was the one who was playing the fool. So I was very innocent, and I think as I got older, people would categorize it as naive almost because of the type of world we live in, and I never understood this whole idea of masks and roles and why do we play these characters, and nothing ever felt real to me, like not even a little bit real. It just felt like this charade, and I'm like, why are we doing all this? Like, this is just so boring and pointless. Like, I don't understand. Why do we need to climb these ladders? Like, why do we need to like have these cliques and, you know, be in high school and like you have to be a great athlete, you have to be great at school, and it all just felt suffocating and oppressive to me. Like, I want another system. I want another paradigm. I want another, like, this isn't suited to me. And I was very sensitive. I was always very in touch with my feminine side, and high school was a very painful experience for me because it was hyper masculine environment. I went to an all boys school, so all boys Catholic private school. So it was painful because I didn't just, it never meshed, and I never, the kind of macho masculine way of bonding, I just never, I don't know, and my nervous system was changing around there. I was miserable, and, you know, I never fit in. I never really had any friends, like close friends. I was always kind of like hiding, and it was a traumatizing experience. I think I was always in fight or flight. There was always this adrenaline running, and, you know, people mocked me, people bullied me, people just saw me as the mute. And I had this, it was a throat chakra trauma because I started to not be able to speak up for myself. I was afraid to open my mouth. Like, it felt like a prison to me because I was just, every year of high school at that age, I was just digging myself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. And I felt hopeless. And like, after I left high school, it was almost like it's taken me the whole rest of my life to recover from that, almost. Because you're so sensitive in that time period, and I developed this idea of myself as a loner, as a loser, as awkward, as you'll never make friends, you'll never have a girlfriend, you'll never love yourself, and then you become your own worst enemy. You're just beating yourself down everywhere you go. So, and then when I went off to college, I started drinking alcohol. I developed this idea that I could live as a shell self, as I could live as someone else, and I could be confident, I could be outgoing, I could be cool, I could be like everyone else. But I always knew in the back of my head that I wasn't. Like, I was always communicating. It's almost like this language had the universe had this language with me, and we're communicating throughout my whole life almost. And I know that I see things that other people don't see, and I feel things that other people don't feel, being a highly sensitive, highly intuitive soul. And I know that I essentially feel the pain of the whole world in my heart everywhere I go. And I feel like my heart is so fragile, and it's been broken by what I perceived as very kind of violent, like not a heart-centered world, but a world of external achievement, and a world based on transaction and based on, you know, fitting in with the crowd. And I think there was always this higher guidance that was guiding me through emotions and intuition that was telling me that you're not really meant to fit in. And even through the darkest times in my life, it's always been there with me. So when I drank, I was binge drinking, 2-3 nights a week, and that became my identity. And I think at that point I was so miserable and so isolated, and there's just no one to talk to. No one understands the level of my sensitivity, and they don't understand what it's like to feel like the world is caving in on you because you're sad, you're depressed, you don't know. Now what I know is all these energies that I have the ability to feel and know and are part of what I signed up to do. But then it's just like, oh, you're just depressed. Like, just take these pills. Like, you're anxious. Like, just get it together, Pete. You're a normal kid. You're talented. You're smart, whatever. Just go do it. Like, go be in life. And it just felt like this very sociopathic way that I never understood. Like even the mental health system, I was always in therapy, took medications for short amounts of time, and it never ever worked. It just felt like being a zombie. And it was just centered around this idea that we're just these production robots and we're just these kind of soulless transactional beings. So when I was drinking, I wanted to die in a sense. Like I would black out and I would end up in places that were really just dangerous. Getting knocked out or getting injured or doing things that I would cringe about years later. Just, I wanted to be outside my body because I didn't feel attached to my body. I never felt attached to my body. I never felt attached to this realm, to this planet. I always felt, I just don't understand. Like it doesn't feel like home. It feels like a mission. It feels like a project. And there is this fire inside of me and there is this compass that has always been guiding me and has always anchored me in a way, even when I've felt super unanchored. And I still, to this day, I struggle to stay grounded every day in some phases of my life because, so climbing out of that with the alcohol abuse, and I got sober at the age of 24, and that changed things a lot. I'm 28 now, and started working on myself. And then I went to Peru in 2017 at the age of 27, and mid 2017, I did 4 ceremonies of ayahuasca with a shaman in the Amazon jungle, and that kind of blasted open some doors permanently, it seemed. Cleared out some traumas that allowed me to rediscover myself in a new way, and it felt that felt like it was really meant to happen, and the energies that I had been feeling up to then were prompting me to go, because I needed to do it. At some level I knew I needed to do it. Because all this pain and all this surface level stuff and all this trauma and all this crap that I'm dealing with in this 3D human, I always knew that it was like a thin veil in a sense. And I knew that I just need to like blast this open and get to the core of what we are. What are we? What makes these machines run? Why are we here? What is the intelligence? What is the operating system behind all this? And how can I plug into the higher one? So ayahuasca was profound. I've made other videos on ayahuasca and I'll probably make more, but I'm not going to get into that now. But it blasted open doors. And after that, it was sort of like it was up to me to do the work and walk through the doors. So it didn't do all the work for me. It showed me the shadow, or it showed me all the pain and all the trauma that was lurking underneath that I wasn't conscious of. It was this liberating feeling of, okay, now, so then around January 2018, the energies had been mounting, and after the 6 months after ayahuasca, I had even been experiencing really profound kind of otherworldly things in my reality. And, you know, spirit contact, sort of heart activations, crown chakra activations, just more bliss and more ecstasy in my body, and just sort of the veils and the dimensions kind of thinning, the walls between the dimensions just thinning. And just like, okay, like, is this real? Like, is this really real? Like, I'm a 3D human, okay, but, and then around December 2017 or January 2018, it became very apparent to me that I do feel energies in a very profound way. And I feel full moons, and I feel planetary retrogrades, and I feel everything. And I started meditating around then. And it felt like a necessity, like I had to do it. And I got really excited every night. Because it was almost like I was journeying into this land, this universe that is inside me. And I was learning about this operating system that is inside me. And I was learning that, okay, it's not just some vague idea that we guess and check and all this about God, and we just hope and we just shoot up flares and we don't really know what it is. No, it was like I could grab onto something that felt so real and so tangible about God, the God within me, the universe within me, the access that my soul has as almost a radio or an internet or an antenna to pick up everything else in the universe, from past lives, from other people, from everything. I was like, from in the collective, from tuning into other people. It just became this just magical wonderland of like, wow. It was like first contact right around January 2018. And then I started feeling the intensities of these energies like running up and down my spine, and just it had been, I know it had been mounting all my life, but this was because we're so rational minded, and I was like, oh yeah, astrology's not real, none of that's real, you don't feel energy, that's just a bunch of BS. But it became to the point where I couldn't deny it anymore. I was actually just having this experience of having my perceptual reality, the lens through which I view reality, rattled and shaken and smashed in a way. It changed, and it was changing every day. And I would cry hysterically in meditations. It was like, ever since that ayahuasca, it really loosened up the gunk in the pipes, and it started to really jar some things loose. But then I didn't realize that it would be a years-long process. That ayahuasca just jammed and jarred and smashed it open. But then pretty much all of 2018 were these intense shadow work of like, okay, I'm way, way, way more depressed and sad, and I have all this trauma that I've been holding on to that I haven't necessarily been conscious of because I've been operating in a zombie state, more or less. But of repression, of fear, of fight or flight, or of almost this PTSD response, or I'm just always in this locked up, I'm scared of the world. I'm scared of the world, and I don't know my power, and I don't know who I am. But it was immensely, like, a huge relief to know that, wow, like, I'm super, super depressed, and there's tons of sadness in here, and I'm crying all this out. It feels like oceans and mountains and all this stuff beneath my rock layers that I haven't had access to. But my God, it's such a relief. It is such a relief to know that I am now on a track, almost as if I boarded a train, and a train is taking me, and I'm on it, and I think of it as God, or this inner healing intelligence, or this love of the universe that is organized in a way such that when you go after it and you ask for it and you ask it and you journey into those places, it will deliver you. And yeah, Peter, this is going to be super painful and scary, and your reality is going to bend and break so many times you're not even going to know what being human is, which is essentially what has been happening. It's August 2019 now, but for these last 2 years, so immensely relieving. Like, my God, I can just, there is this divine feminine, this mother, this God that can just cradle me and say it's okay, even when I'm just crying out the most painful things, to be able to release them. When I first tasted like that real release in ayahuasca in a way that I never could, where it just blasted so many things open, and you're just like, whoa, I've been holding on to all this stuff that I had no clue was affecting me. And then that was the beginning of like, okay, now I can just day to day learn how to monitor my energy body and learn how to be in touch with this part of me and coming back and coming home to my true self. So when I think of that period, and I know I'm curious if other people will probably have experiences with this too, January to May in 2018 just felt so, like, it was such a magical time for me, because it was this first contact, and it was this idea that I can work with these energies, and I can become the creator of this reality, and I started talking out loud in meditations a lot, and I would say, help me feel the angels, spirit guides, ancestors, beings, help me feel the emotions I don't want to feel today, and help me, What can I not see about this angle? Let's tune in. And then I would cry, or if I meditated for 2 hours or 3 hours, and I started to be able to sense like the conscious mind is just something that needed to be tire itself out for 20, 30 minutes of the first part of meditation. And then you get down into that other wave state and you're like, wow, like I've been just living my whole life based on these unconscious patterns. And if you just have a little discipline to sit, you can start to feel this eternal part of you that is the observer. And what I found is that it just made me so hopeful. It's like I'm in control. I have the ability to work on my heart and work on my soul every day if I want. And it's not just some hopeless thing. And I can find it in me, and I can find it in my power, and I can start to look at myself, and I can start to really look myself in the mirror of not being this sad, depressed, shy, awkward kid who's just hiding away from the world because I didn't know who I was. And I think a couple years ago I found out about this, I heard the term starseed or lightworker or, volunteer soul, mercenary soul, and they're all, or indigo children, all these different names of these souls who incarnated here on a mission and came here. And I started looking on the internet and just seeing that they all said the same things that described me, that like you just feel alienated, you don't know why you're here. So as a kid, all I would want to do would talk about the universe, talk about why we're here, talk about what are we doing on this planet, just everything, and just this kind of like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand. What are we doing with all this boring crap? And like, why don't we tap into the true potential of our souls? So it was that higher guidance always that was there. And I started to see that, okay, I'm not crazy. And I see that I am here for a reason, and there are people like me, and I'm very unique, and I'm very different. And just no one understands, and it's hard, and it's alienating because a therapist doesn't understand, your siblings, your friends, or whoever, they just don't get it. They don't get it because everything in this world is kind of just fitting into like, okay, you're either in depression or you're sad, and it's just one little level. But to me, I'm like, oh, there's thousands of different levels of emotions, thousands of different levels of dimensional experience and reality and everything. And I'm just so fed up with stopping at the first floor or the second floor. I want to go to floor infinity. There is something that I genuinely love about having my heart smashed open and heartbreak. And it is always painful. It's always painful and heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching. But when you learn to surrender to it, it's the most liberating experience of ever. So I feel that the shadow work became like, okay, I'm on a track now. I'm on a track and I feel connected, and we're going to do what we need to do, and it's guiding me. And there's this fire or light inside me that is God and is one with everything. And in that year of 2018, so many miracles became so commonplace of, crying tears of joy. That was a new experience. That became a very frequent experience of like, okay, I used to think there was a distinction in terms of the heart, in terms of sadness and happiness, but what the heart craves is just depth. The heart just loves to feel. So the heart could feel rattled and deeply awe and gratitude and ecstasy and love and cry just the same it could cry for sadness. But because I had previously lived in this cultural programming of like, oh, sadness is bad, and you're taught to fear your emotions and you're taught to not actually tap into it. So as you are uncovering all these new things in yourself, you start to feel so much rage. You feel rage, you feel sadness, you feel everything. It's like you're coming home to yourself and you're remembering who you were before all the cultural programming, or even before this lifetime, or even outside of time. And you remember that you're eternal and time and space are kind of dissolving. They're bending and it's bending and breaking like a rubber band. And you just see that everything is inside you. Everything. All the love you need, the whole universe is just you. I am everything and everything is me. There's no separation. And you see that at a visceral level. And when that's happening, it's almost scary day to day, because the veil is coming back more and more and more each day, and you're getting more red pills. So you're becoming more sensitive every day. You're starting to see with the eyes of a child again, because you're being derooted of so much stuff and so much crap. And you also, the deaths and the rebirths are so intense and almost quantum. And it's just like a spiral. So you feel you might have a couple thousand deaths and rebirths just in one day, and your head's spinning and you don't even know what you're doing. And then you have, a week of mainly death, then a week of rebirth where you're feeling shining and you're feeling great and you're feeling, so the deaths and rebirths are good because what they do is they show you that every time you clean out the container or expand the container, more light is anchoring down into your body and coming into you in a remembrance or an activation of your DNA or remembrance of past lives. And it's so messy. It's really messy and painful and ugly. It really is. It's just so much death and destruction and you start to see through all the lies of society and the things that were put on you, the ways you were taught to play small, and it's really hard. It can feel like an avalanche some days, and you just want to be alone. 2018, I was so solitary, just so solitary, because human relationships feel completely pointless, because you feel that I'm not going to be the same person 2 days from now I'll be a completely different person. That's how fast I'm dying. Or all the belief systems and everything else is dying, and these energies, this energetic cocktail that we drew up before we incarnated, of the planets of the Schumann resonance. Schumann resonance is basically the vibration of Earth. So I noticed that I'm super, super sensitive to that, and I pick up on that, and I pick up on the collective energies. I know that now too. And you reframe so many things about your life. You're like going back in time and just doing the math of like, oh, it wasn't that I'm shy and sensitive and weird and awkward and whatever. It's just that I was, Jupiter was transiting this, or something was going on in the collective, and I could feel all that. But at that time, I didn't know that would affect me. And I didn't know that it would, it's not even culturally acceptable, because we have this Western way of interpreting things. So I would say it's almost like this birth or this blooming in your heart that starts to happen, where you just get in touch with this feminine, this divine feminine in your heart, and this sense of spontaneity and love and child, and just what makes you laugh and cry, and you're just rediscovering yourself in the most magical way. But at the same time knowing that, okay, we got to keep digging and digging and digging to purify more and to rid ourselves of more. And that light that's anchoring down into you is helping with that process. So as painful as the ego deaths are, they are also insanely liberating. Because the freedom and the lightness that you feel after you drop off ego, or you drop off a couple belief systems about, okay, money will make me happy, a girlfriend will make me happy, all these things outside of me will make me happy. It's like you're being initiated into this secret club, but it's the origin of the universe and the origin of why you're here. But most people are just so estranged from themselves that we have no clue. So you're the one who appears insane. Completely insane. Because if I tried to explain this to anyone, they would have no clue what I'm talking about. Or they would think I'm crazy, or they don't really believe in it because they haven't experienced it in themselves. And Also, my body changes so much. My body changed so much. I just started rejecting foods and not wanting to eat some days, and it's like your machinery is just getting upgraded and you don't know what to do, and you're just floating in outer space some days, and you just there's this distinct feeling that you're like James Bond or something, or you're like a double agent. You know you're here on a mission. You know you've tapped into this intelligence, and you're just so excited. It just lights you on fire, and it's all you want to talk about. It's all you want to think about. It's all you want to focus on. It's the only thing you think is worth living for. Digging into your heart deeper, finding deeper connection with your soul, deeper connection, clearing out all the clutter and all the junk of anything that's between you and your higher self, which is a lot. There's a lot of cultural programming, trauma, everything that we're just taught to take on. And we don't realize how estranged I was from my higher self, my higher guidance, and my truth. It can appear scary at first, right? When you cry, it always appears scary, and it appears like something else, like anxiety, like fear, like scatterbrained, whatever. And then, you know what I mean? Like then you finally cry and it feels amazing and you release something out of your body, but you're like, it was just emotions. It was just emotions that needed to come through me. And I started to learn how to really command that and track my own systems of like, what am I really upset about? What am I going out to do in the world right now? Am I going out to find fulfillment when I could be finding it in my heart first? I could find it in my heart and then go make that my reality, because I'm the conscious creator. And I'm God, and we're all God, and we're eternal, and we're playing roles for each other. And I'm here on a mission, and there's a reason I've always felt alien. And there's also a phase of your awakening where you desperately want to tell everyone you know, and you hit against the wall enough times and bang your head against the wall enough times to know that it's not really worth your effort. And I did this for a long time, trying to convince people of like, oh, psychedelics, it's going to open you up to all these things, and you can see this and you can see that, and you don't understand the lies and all this. And you realize that we live in a world where magic and miracles and all these things from the beyond that we call them, which are commonplace for someone like me, which are like very, very common. And I just don't talk about them now, but they're everywhere for me now. But most people, if they haven't experienced it in their life, they're not ready. And I had to learn that too, to let go of certain people that are not ready, or they just weren't meant. They'll wake up or they'll see what they need to see when they need to, because they drew up that whole divine plan themselves. And that took me a long time, because I was trying to force so many things on family members and like trying to make them understand. And not until, recently did I learn, like, this is just my mission. I have to be unique, and I have to hear these things that a lot of other people don't. Being a channel, being a conduit, being a vessel for these energies, because I came here to anchor light on the planet and transmute dense emotions. So I'm going to begin with part 2. Will be 2019, because in the very beginning of 2019 I went back to Peru for 4 more ceremonies with a shaman, and I will start from there. And that's a whole new chapter of the awakening, where I'm sort of learning how to drive more, this new car of consciousness. And the shifts, although scary and crazy and otherworldly like usual now, with the planetary energies, but we're more manageable in a sense, even though they were still super intense. So I'll start with that in part 2. So thanks for tuning in, and I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or any take on what I said. So thanks a lot.